What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. So just to quickly get started, in the last video, we pretty much left off at the game over screen, if you remember. So that's exactly where we're going to pick this one back up. And just to give you guys a recap of what the last prompts with Gemini were, um, it basically gave us three options here. We could either start working with on the main menu scene, the game over screen, or level transitions, and I asked what the seasoned game dev would do, and it basically told us to get started with the game over screen. So we created the UI canvas, we added the text and buttons, and then we hid that panel by default. So this is our UI manager and game over panel, and it's currently hidden, which is why you don't see anything. If we go back to the scene view and unhide it, then you can see the screen we've built. So it's got two buttons, and then the game over text here. So we got the retry button and the main menu button, and we're gonna start building from there. So let's get back to Gemini and see what the next steps are gonna be. All right, so I'm gonna submit my prompt, which is gonna be I have completed all three steps. And now it ended the last response with a question. So let's just read this part. With the visual shell built, the next step is writing a quick script to make the panel appear upon death and assigning logic to those buttons so they actually trigger those scene loads. Do you already have a general game manager script where we can drop this logic, or should we create a dedicated UI controller script specifically for this? So we do have a game manager script, if you remember. From one of the previous videos, we have created this game manager script. And let's quickly recap what the script currently does. Score tracking, so it basically controls the score tracking, and that's probably about it. Okay, I'll just copy this code and paste it to Gemini. Um, we do have a game manager script where we did create a game manager script earlier, which tracks our score. Here's the here is here are the contents, and then just pasted the script. And let's see, would the season game dev use this script or create a separate UI controller script? And let's see. So basically pasted the code and then added this question. Okay, so a seasoned game dev would absolutely create a separate script, something like a UI manager or a UI controller. Keeping your architecture modular is critical when you lump UI logic, score tracking, and game state management into a single monolithic game manager. It quickly becomes a tangled web as the application scales. By separating them, your game manager acts strictly as the brain, tracking state, points, depth, and the UI manager acts purely as the presentation layer, turning panels on and off. This decoupled approach makes debugging and expanding your systems significantly easier. So here's how we should set up that clean separation. So we got to create our UI controller, update the game manager, and link the components in the inspector. So let's perform these three steps. So step one, create the UI controller. We're gonna create a new script here, create scripting, empty C# script UI manager. Okay, and now it wants me to attach this script already to our UI manager canvas in the hierarchy. This is a canvas. Okay, but before I do that, I'll paste the code in our script first. So let's just copy and paste. And what's going on here? So we got this UI panels header. We got our field there, private game object game over panel. So this is the panel we created. And the start method, ensure the panel is off when the level loads. If game over panel is not equal null, set active false. And then we have our show game over screen method. If game over panel is not null, then we set we set active to true. And then restart level, reset time to normal, just in case we pause the game upon death. So time scale is 1f, scene manager load scene, build index. Reset time to normal just in case we pause the game upon death. Okay, I don't understand this function, so I gotta ask Gemini what this is doing. And then load main menu, reset time, and load the menu. Assume your menu scene is named main menu. So this is something we still haven't created, but let me just see. Reset time to normal, just in case we pause the game upon death. What do you mean by reset time to normal? And I'll just ask this. I'll just copy this section. What do you mean by reset time to normal? Just answer this. Okay, so in Unity, time.timescale controls the global speed at which time passes in the engine. Setting it to 1f means time runs 100% at 100% normal speed. In the game manager script update from the previous step, we added time.timescale equals 0f inside the trigger game over method. Trigger game over method. Okay, so these are from step 2 that we still haven't done. So I'll read that explanation once we complete the next steps, and let's get back into it. So update the game manager. Let's open up our game manager script and have this side by side maybe so we can compare it real quick. Okay, update our game manager. So it has a definitive method that handles death state and communicates with the UI layer. All right, so what are we doing there? Score tracking, score text, score equals 0, awake function. Okay, looks to be the same there. Start, update score UI. We got our add score method. We got our update score method. So now this is the new section we need to add in. Game over logic, trigger game over. This is the method. And we freeze the game graphic, freeze the game physics. Time.timescale is equals 0f, and then we tell our UI layer to show that screen we created, which is this function that's getting called, and our panel becomes active. So makes sense. And then step 3, before we get to that, let's go back to this response here. In Unity, time.timescale controls the global speed at which time passes in the engine. Setting it to 1f means time runs at 100% normal speed. So we're doing that here. Time.timescale is 1f. Okay. Just in case we pause the game. So I assume like when we pause the game, time.timescale becomes 0. in the game manager script update from the previous step, we added time.timescale equals 0f inside the trigger game over method. That 0f instantly freezes the player, enemies, and physics the moment the game over screen pops up. Okay, makes sense, makes sense. Okay. So right here, when the game is over, everything freezes because time has come to a stop there. Because time.timescale is a global engine setting, it persists even when you reload the scene. You do not reset it back to 1F before executing the next scene load. If you do not reset it back to 1F before executing the scene load, the player would hit the retry button, the level would reset perfectly, but the entire game would stay permanently frozen, so that's not what we want. It all makes sense now. Hopefully it makes sense to you as well. um, and now let's go move on to step 3, is link our components in the inspector. So I'm going to save these two scripts and go back to Unity. Name manager. The name UI manager does not exist in the current context. UI manager. I don't know what it's talking about. UI manager. I must have forgotten to declare the UI manager. So let's see. Right there, of course. This should be under our score variable. So here. And hopefully I didn't forget anything else. Da, da, da. All right, cool. Save it. All compiled, and what should we do? Link our components in the inspector. So select your game manager object in the hierarchy. Game manager in the hierarchy. Game manager. I'm trying to find game manager. It's hard to find these things. Game manager. You'll see a new UI manager slot. Okay, so script is already there. UI manager slot is there. I think we skip something at the beginning. Let's see. Let's create a new script. So step 1, create a new script named UI manager and attach it to your UI manager canvas in the hierarchy. So let's just do that now real quick. So UI manager, and we need to add a component and add our UI manager script. And now let's move on to the last steps here. So select our game manager object. We can have our UI manager slot and drag our UI manager canvas into that slot. So UI manager goes here, drag and drop. Select your UI manager canvas in the hierarchy and drag your game over panel into its respective slot. So game over panel should go in there. Drag and drop again. Select your retry button in the hierarchy, retry button right there. Scroll down to the on click section. On click, list is empty. And click the plus icon. Drag your UI manager canvas into the empty object slot. UI manager canvas goes in there, really? Okay, so added it there. Click the no function drop down. Go to UI manager and select restart level. Ah, okay, interesting. And repeat the exact same process for your menu button, and we're gonna click on the plus and drag our UI manager and click no function, but this time we are going to select load main menu. Load main menu method. Okay, so load main menu, and that should be it. We've completed all these steps. Are you currently destroying the parent player instantly upon death, like with spike traps and kill zones, or are we ready to hook up the player's hazard collision logic to trigger game manager instance dot trigger game over? So let me just go to answer your previous question. Currently, I am destroying the player instantly upon death, but I'm ready to go in the direction of the seasoned game dev, as always. And this is the prompt. Okay, so moving away from the destroy game object for your player is exactly the right call. When you instantly destroy the player object, any script trying to communicate with it, like your cine machine camera trying to follow it, or an enemy trying to track its position, will immediately throw a null reference exception and crash the script. It also makes it impossible to play a death animation or a death sound because the object holding those components no longer exists. So by routing the death state through the game manager instead, the player object stays safely in the scene. Time freezes, the UI pops up, and no background scripts panic. So we're going to follow these steps. So we're going to update our hazard scripts and then apply it to the scene. Seems simple enough. Whether it is your spike trap, your kill zone, or a generic hazard script, you'll replace that line that destroys the player with a direct call to your new game manager method. Open the script attached to your hazards and update the trigger event. Okay, open up hazard. Side by side. Okay, so update the trigger event. Play a death sound right before the game freezes, of course. I wanted to do that, so glad it thought of it without me having to mention it. But if you watch the last video, that's exactly what I was talking about. Uh, okay, so audio clip death sound is in place. Now, optional, play the death sound. So death sound goes up here and so instead of these, if the level's already beaten, ignore the hazard. Okay, so we're gonna pretty much comment out this section for now. And let our game manager handle it. And step 2 is apply to the scene, save the script. Okay, I'll just follow these 4 steps. Of course, compiling time. They're all compiled now. Apply to the scene, so save the script. Select your spike trap. Spike trap. So I should probably select the prefab. Spike trap. Ensure this updated script is attached. Hazard is attached, yes. And we need to find a death sound, so that's what I'll do now. I also found one that I liked, and I've already dragged and dropped it here, so let's make that death sound, put it in place. Game over, right there. And go back to Gemini, optional drag a death file to the slot. And now because game manager dot instance dot trigger game over includes the time dot timescale dot equals 0f, the exact frame the player touches the spike, the game will completely pause and the dark UI panel will appear, allowing them to click retry and safely reload the level. Now that the core loop of playing, dying, and retrying is fully contained within the level, should we build the main menu scene? But before we do that, let's make sure it works, because we still haven't tested anything. Okay, so a lot of work. Miss anything? Should I touch the spike? Nice. Very cool. One thing I will do there is what we did yesterday. I don't know if you were able to hear me on top of that background music that's playing. But one thing I want to do is as soon as we hit that spike, the background music should stop, in my opinion. So we did something like that yesterday. If you remember, we added stop the background music in one of these scripts. Where did we add that? That was on the level goal, I believe. Okay, stop the audio, stop the background music is right there. So yeah, I'll just add this in there just to stop the background music. Hazard, death sound equals null. Okay, so this is where we will add our logic. And hopefully it's not a janky way to do it. I'll, of course, get some feedback on it. And this BGM is background music. So with this in place, let's see if it works. All right, and perfect. Yep. So background music stops. The only thing is this the correct place to enter this, or should there be a method somewhere else? Because this is hazard. So I'll just ask Gemini if this is the right way, right place to add this, or if there's a better place where we can put this, because I don't want to copy the same block of code in multiple different scripts. I'd rather have like a maybe call a function within the game manager. So I added copied over stop music, uh, background music block of code from our level goal script to our hazard script. It works, but my question is, should we put this block code somewhere else and just call that function? What would a good developer do here? And this is the current hazard script collision method. This is a snippet from where I copied over the block code. And if you want to see. Okay, so seasoned developer would absolutely avoid copy pasting that block of code. What I am sensing is the need for the dry principle. Don't repeat yourself. Okay. Copying and pasting this block into multiple scripts creates true problems performance. GameObject.find is one of the slowest operations in Unity because it forces the engine to scan every single object in your scene until it finds a name match. That's not good. So doing this during a critical moment like a player death can cause micro stutter. Maintenance, if you ever rename the audio manager object or change how the music works, you would have to hunt down and fix that code. That's not good. Professional solution is to turn your audio manager into a singleton, exactly like we did with the game manager. This gives every script in your game instant, highly efficient access to a central set of audio controls. Here's how to set that up. So create that audio manager script. All right, so let's do that. Script, create, empty C sharp, scripting, empty C sharp, and in this audio manager, and create a new script and attach it to your audio manager game object in the hierarchy. Audio manager game object. Okay. Audio manager. Where is it? Audio manager. I guess it's not there yet because there's no contents. All right, and now I'll just copy this blog. Not blog, the whole script. And what do we got here? We got the audio manager instance, awake function, singleton pattern implementation, instances equals to none, null. I can't talk, it's been a long day. Instance is this, grab the audio source components attached to this same object, background music source, I guess, that's what it's saying. Get component audio source. I'll just have Gemini break down this so we understand what's happening. Did you break down the awake function? And then we have our stop music right there. Okay, so with that in place, okay, so this is our background music. Let's get the explanation. So, I mean, I understand that it's the Unity's built-in event function that runs exactly once when the script is first loaded before the start function. This makes it the perfect place to set up foundational logic like the singleton pattern. Here's the line-by-line breakdown of what this block is doing. If instance equals null, because instance is a static variable, meaning the variable belongs to the overall class, not to any individual objects in the scene. It starts out as null. When the level loads and the script wakes up, it looks at the static variable and asks, has another audio manager already claimed the spot? The claim instance is this. If instance is indeed null, this specific audio manager steps up and says, I am the official audio manager, which would be our guy here. By setting instance equal this it assigns itself to that globally accessible variable. From this moment on, any script in your game that calls audio manager.instance is communicating directly with this specific object. The setup BGM source, get component audio source. Yeah, this is the one I wanted it to explain. So now that this has officially secured its position as the manager, it performs its setup work. Get component audio source tells the script to look at the game object it is currently attached to. Find the audio source component. Audio source component. Audio manager. Audio. Okay. So this component right there. That makes sense now. And save a direct reference to it in the BGM source variable. Background music source becomes our audio source. This guy, BGM source. This ensures the manager can instantly stop or play music later without having to search for that component again, as we are doing in our current blocks in two separate scripts. So the duplicate execution, else destroy game object. This is the most critical part of the singleton pattern. If you accidentally drag two audio managers into your scene, or if you create a system that carries the audio manager between scene loads, both will run their awake functions when the level starts. First one checks if instance equal null, sees that the spot is empty and claims it. A millisecond later, the second one checks if the instance equal null. Because the first one already claimed it, the answer is now false. The second script skips the code and destroys itself pretty much. Um, the strict Highlander rule, there can only be one, guarantees that your game never ends up with competing managers playing two tracks over top of each other. Okay, so that makes sense to me. Now let's go back to it. Clean up the hazard script. Okay, so we can delete that entire block. Go to our hazard. And we can delete. Like our music code that we copied over. All right, so just do Control Z's until that's gone. Good. And we will copy over this section. Set of all that copy pasted block from the level goal script. We now have this clean background music stop functionality in our audio manager script that we are calling. And clean up the level goal script. So go back to level goal and we pretty much copy the same thing here. Okay, so get rid of that. By abstracting that logic into a central manager, your collision scripts stay lightweight, readable, and purely focused on collisions. Now that your core gameplay loop, depth state, and audio management are all architecturally sound, shall we move on to building the main menu scene? We shall, but in the next episode. So let me save all these scripts, and that should be it. And let's test things out. Okay, all done compiling. So two things to test. Does the background music stop once we hit that spike? And does the background music stop once we hit that trophy? And I think the other thing we should test out is this retry button. Does it do what it's supposed to do? So, ooh, nothing happened. Why did nothing happen? I know why, because we didn't add that script here. So add component audio manager. There we go. And let's try it again. Perfection. Will this retry button work? It doesn't work, actually. Trying to click on it, but nothing happens. Why does nothing happen? That's not good, is it? The game over panel needs to be unchecked, okay? And does that make a difference, though? Still, it didn't make a difference. Why is the retry not working there? Let's see. Retry. Hmm, which script would that be in? Restart level. Restart level, okay. Scene manager dot load scenes, get scene manager that get active scene dot build index. All right, we will fix this in the next one because it's already getting kind of long. But the other thing we should test out is our what is it called? Trophy stopping the background music. So perfect. Only the spike stops it. So we got a bunch of things to fix. Alrighty, and I'll see you on the next one.